Mira sat at the edge of her bed, a letter in her lap, and tears she no longer had the strength to cry. The days had blurred into one long ache. Her husband was gone. Her children had drifted far, busy with cities and screens, and the house that once echoed with laughter now only whispered reminders of what used to be. She hadn't spoken to anyone in weeks. Neighbors offered help, but she always smiled politely, declined, and closed the door a little faster each time. Grief had wrapped itself around her like a fog, quiet, slow, and suffocating. One morning, Mira walked out, barefoot, down the road to nowhere in particular. Her hands trembled, her eyes didn't focus. She just walked. She reached the park where she used to take her grandchildren and sat on a bench like a ghost of who she once was. An old woman, older than Mira, with wrinkled hands and bright, clear eyes, sat beside her. She didn't ask questions. She didn't offer pity. She just said one word. Still. Mira blinked. Still what? She asked. The woman smiled gently and replied, "You're still here?" And that's where all stories begin again. Mira stared at the woman beside her, unsure whether to laugh, cry, or walk away. But something about that word, still, sat in her chest like a small ember refusing to die. "Still here," she repeated under her breath, not as a statement, but as a question. The old woman pulled out a cloth bag and handed Mira a small piece of bread. "You look like someone who forgot to eat," she said. Mira hesitated, then took it, surprised by the warmth of the gesture more than the food itself. They sat in silence. Birds chirped, wind rustled leaves. No heavy talks, no life advice, just quiet. Then the woman spoke again. "People think endings happen when we lose something, but most endings are just pauses. Life waits. And when you're ready, it whispers, 'Begin again.'" That sentence hung in the air. Mira hadn't heard something that soft in years. Everything lately had been loud. Death, silence, loneliness. But this was different. It was gentle. She turned to ask the woman her name, but the bench was empty. No bag, no voice, just the fading warmth of someone who had been there for exactly the right moment. Mira looked down at her hands, still holding the bread, still trembling, but now still here. That night, Mira didn't turn off all the lights like she usually did. She left a small lamp burning in the hallway, just to see what it felt like not to sit completely in the dark. She didn't sleep much, but for the first time in weeks, she didn't cry either. The next morning she opened the windows. Then she did something strange. She boiled water for 2 cups of tea, not 1. Out of habit? Hope? She didn't know. But the smell filled the house in a way that reminded her she used to enjoy mornings. Later that day, she sat by the window with an old journal. Pages once filled with grocery lists and reminders now stared blankly at her. She picked up a pen and wrote one word: still. It sat there on the page like an anchor. That word didn't erase her grief. It didn't bring back what was gone, but it gave her something new. Presence. The kind that sees, I'm not gone. Not yet. I still count. And with that, she decided to take one small walk. Not to escape the pain, but to remind herself, if she could walk, she could move. And if she could move, maybe, just maybe, she could start. Mira didn't walk far, just down the lane, past the park bench, toward the small corner shop she hadn't visited in months. The shopkeeper, startled to see her, smiled awkwardly. "Good morning, Mom." She nodded. "It is, isn't it?" She bought tea leaves, sugar, and 2 extra cups, though she lived alone. On the way back, she stopped by the school gate. Children rushed past her, laughing, backpacks bouncing. She watched quietly, hand resting on the iron bars, not feeling like a stranger anymore. The next morning, she brewed tea again. Then she stepped outside and placed 1 cup on the ledge near her gate. No one asked for it. No one came. But that wasn't the point. It was there, just in case. Each day, she left the 2nd cup. Some days, it went cold. Some days, it was taken. And slowly, the silence around her started to shift. Not with grand conversations, but with simple nods, gentle smiles, brief exchanges that reminded her she wasn't invisible. The word "still" remained pinned to her journal's front page. And every time doubt crept in, every time loneliness pressed heavy on her chest, she looked at it. Still here, still standing, still becoming. One day, Mira noticed a girl, no more than 10, pausing at the cup left outside. She didn't take it, just looked at it, then at Mira through the gate. The next day, she came closer. The day after that, she said softly, "My mom left. My dad doesn't talk much." Mira didn't say a word. She simply poured another cup and handed it over. That's how it began. The girl came back every day after school. Then came others. A boy with torn shoes. A teenager who had lost his grandmother. Mira didn't start a charity. She didn't build a foundation. She just listened, poured tea, asked how their day had been. And in that quiet exchange, something changed. Not just in them, but in her. She began writing again, not about grief, but about memories, dreams, stories. She filled pages with simple moments, a child's laugh, a shared cookie, a silent thank you. She still missed her husband. She still longed for her children, but the ache no longer swallowed her. It walked beside her, quieter now, softer, because she had filled the emptiness with something real. Presence, connection, stillness, with meaning. Mira never found out who the old woman on the bench was. Maybe she was real, maybe not. But her word remained, etched in Mira's mind, stitched into every quiet act of healing that followed. Still here, still human, still able to give, to listen, to connect. Mira didn't fix the world. She didn't return to the life she once had, but she created a new one, built from teacups, conversations, and one simple truth. You don't need to be full of answers to matter. You just need to show up. In time, the neighbors stopped calling her the lonely widow and started calling her the porch mother, a woman whose strength wasn't in her loudness, but in her consistency. She didn't rescue anyone. She just stayed, long enough for others to feel safe enough to speak. And maybe, in a world full of noise, that kind of presence is rarest of all. Have you ever been saved by something small? A word, a smile, a moment of stillness? Share it in the comments. Your story might become someone else's turning point. If this story stayed with you, pass it on to someone who might be sitting quietly with heavy hands. And subscribe for more stories that remind you, even the smallest word can be the beginning of everything.